Hello, si Charat. What is the true purpose of your life? What do you really want to dedicate yourself to? You may not want to face this question right now because maybe you believe that the activities that represent your true purpose don't earn you any money, they don't pay your bills, they don't guarantee your future. Or you may find that you don't have the time, the talent, or the resources to devote yourself to that life purpose. If that's the case, the good news is that technology is rapidly advancing and bringing about major changes in the way we live and work. It is very likely that over the next few years you will end up changing careers. Your job may simply cease to exist or be replaced by robots or outsourced to another country with cheaper labor. Or you yourself may be dissatisfied to the point of deciding to change careers on your own when you realize that your current job doesn't represent your true calling. One way or another, when you find your life purpose and you start working with your purpose in mind, that dissatisfaction that you feel when you work, it disappears. You really enjoy what you do because you find a real reason to go to work every day. Now, this does not mean you will not be faced with stress and problems and complications. These problems will always exist, but you won't be suffering because of these problems. When you align your work with your purpose, you feel a sense of satisfaction because you know that you're bringing a unique contribution to the world. Many people dream of getting to the point where they don't need to work anymore, financial independence. They accumulate so much money, they can live on their passive income, the results of their investments. But there is an even better prospect, finding a purpose for which you would work for free. This is a very special kind of a freedom, which is choosing to go to work even if you don't need the money. You don't work because you need to, you work because you want to. It is a conscious choice. Without a purpose, you cannot make conscious decisions. Without clear life goals, the most common thing is that you start doing things simply because everyone else is doing it. So you go to school, get good grades, then you go to university, then you get an internship, and then you can graduate, and then you can get your first job. Along the way, you meet that someone special, become romantically involved with, you decide to have a child, and then you buy your first house, so then you take a mortgage for another 30 years of your life, and you become imprisoned by your employment because you need the salary to continue paying the mortgage, and then you hate your job, but you can't quit. We call this the golden cage or the golden handcuffs. It's a situation in which you're imprisoned because of financial commitments. And then you feel miserable all week long, longing forward to feel a little bit of joy on weekends and holidays. It's like you're dreaming about the day when you can finally retire and you don't need to work anymore. Well, there's a way to break this vicious cycle, to be clear about your purpose and work out a life plan to achieve your purpose. Think of your purpose as a mission, as something which is much more important than just a job. Work can be something that makes you lazy, that represents suffering. Work without purpose is the anguish of believing that you have to carry the activity that you hate all your life just to be able to pay your own bills. And you can, from today, decide to make a change. You can decide consciously to change your lifestyle so you no longer need to work without a purpose just to pay your bills and do everything else that everybody else is doing. Of course, if you have debts to pay, if you have a family to support, you cannot do this immediately like, vida loca, but you can have some good planning. You can, avoid just dropping everything immediately and just say you're going to change your situation. You're going to draw up a plan and start acting to make that plan a reality one step at a time. But for this, we need to find a way to describe purpose. Let's step back. What is the purpose of life? So please get rid of any prejudice that you have about this subject. When you use this term, you have to understand that the word purpose is about something that everybody has. You have, I have it, your Aunt Josephine has, everyone, without exception. Within this definition, okay, now you already have a purpose for life. Because with this definition, everyone has it. The problem is that we often forget about it, or we're not in a high level of consciousness to clearly see what our purpose is. If this is the case that you find yourself in, here's some good news. Just the fact that you're here thinking about it, this is an indicator that you're seeking to raise your level of awareness. So, congratulations. Let's continue to develop this definition. What is your purpose? A purpose is more than just a logical plan. It's also an emotional compass that guides you in choosing your objectives. Purpose makes you make more conscious decisions that are aligned with your highest personal values. It helps you and the people around you. If you're thinking of something that only benefits you and no one else, probably that's not your true purpose, because true purpose comes when you are serving others. For example, if you make beautiful designs and you're leaving your art hidden away in a storage, in a locker, in a drawer, this is not serving anyone. To be more sure about this aspect, always ask yourself, who is enjoying your work? If what you do is not helpful to other people, it has little use. A good sign that you're working with purpose is when you perform some type of an activity and you feel joy just by being there. When you act only for the pleasure being in the journey without focusing so much on the final results. The opposite is also true. When you work without purpose, you hardly have any joy. You just have to wake up early because you have to pay your bills and you don't want to get fired. And if it weren't for these factors, you would choose to stay in bed for longer in your morning. You're just exchanging your time for money, and this money is going to be used to pay your bills. It's quite obvious that you will not be satisfied in this type of a situation. On the other hand, when you are fulfilling your mission, you're benefiting the people around you. Now you have a clarity of purpose. It gives you a new perspective of life, having a positive outlook. Now, let's take the concept of having a positive mindset to improve your definition of purpose. So far, you've seen that to find your purpose, you should be serving others, right? Well, what does that mean? It means that what you should do is to make other people's lives better, easier, more practical, more interesting, happier, fuller. These factors are very important. If you need to, take a minute and consider this, and then you continue watching this video. Who do you help? How are these people's lives better because of you, because of your work? Are you ready? It is important to understand how you serve others. For example, imagine that you want to start a business. One question that may arise in your head is how to prevent your employees from slacking off and pretending to be working when actually they're doing nothing and they're just being paid to stand around. You might also be wondering how to install security cameras, security systems, so that your customers don't steal your products from your shop, from your store. Or how to do to crush the competition and prevent your competitors from copying your ideas or strategies. But there is another more positive, more different perspective of figuring out how you can serve your staff better by enabling a better environment so your employees are happy to collaborate with you in your company. Or how you can delight your customers so they are loyal advocates of your brand and they bring more customers through positive recommendations. They multiply results. Or how you can become a leader who inspires other people in your industry so your competitors actually is going to be other entrepreneurs who want to collaborate with you. This is just a simple change of a perspective that causes different conscious choices. Choices that can radically transform the same experience. It is critical that you take some time to understand that your purpose is only truly revealed when you clarify your contribution that you make in other people's lives. The result of this is a life with less friction, an effortless life. What would an effortless life be like? A good indicator whether or not you're living according to life purpose is to observe the amount of effort that you have to put into each day. When you work for something far from your purpose, these days can be torture because you're constantly doing things that you don't want to. You have to wake up at a certain time. You have to deal with all those people that you really don't want to see. You have to go there. All you want to do is to go back home. When you're fulfilling your life goal, Time passes quickly, even if you have to be awake at a specific time, if you have to deal with certain types of people. It seems to cost you less effort because you see meaning in the work that you're doing. Suffering, anxiety, laziness, exertion mean that you are not acting as you would like. It's going against what you really want. You're not being the person you like to be. You're not at the place where you would like to be. You're not working with the people you would like to work with. It is not that problems simply disappear when you're working according to your life purpose. In fact, the changes it's about your perspective and your willingness to deal with these problems. The impact of all of this in your mindset can completely change your life. Therefore, it is essential to be clear about the impact of your actions. There's a classic example, maybe you heard this before. You look at two masons and ask what they're doing. One of them says he's carrying bricks. Another one says, he's building a school for the children of the community. Same activity. Do you understand the difference? Everything can be a matter of perspective, and depending on the perspective that you choose, you will discover a very different meaning that is just in front of you. And some people realize this and others don't. It's much easier to change your perception of the world than to try to change the whole world to be fitting your goals. Now, that being said, you need to understand one last key piece to our definition of purpose. It is the pleasure of the journey. When you identify your life purpose and you make a plan to live by it, you want to be committed to action, not just the outcome. You need to be detached from the end result of your plan so that your real reward is to fulfill your mission and do what needs to be done. You find pleasure and happiness as you walk the path, and not only when you finally reach your final destination. You don't need that final destination to bring joy to you because you're already living in joy for the simple fact that you're in the process, you're in the journey. You're doing what gives you satisfaction. This is what you're looking for. Hopefully, this illustrates to you how important perspective is. Now try to imagine one more time the masons, how they feel inside. The bricklayer who says that he wants to build the school, maybe he's a person suffering every day. He has a misery of not having yet finished the school that he wants. And maybe the bricklayer who says that he's just carrying bricks, he finds contentment in his mission, being a good servant, carrying bricks one by one. Discovering your purpose is one of the key pieces for you to take control of your own life. But there are other pieces that make up this puzzle of good life planning, a plan that makes it possible to turn your biggest dreams into reality. And if you want to know which puzzle pieces you might be missing or how to put them all together, you can watch a special class that we provided for you by going to arata.se/life plan.